Okay, this week I'm going to actually get into the CBT and REBT that like I mentioned last week. So now we do have in here like the appendixes for terminology and stuff. So I'm going to I've failed to mention that like in other videos that the handbook I have here is the 2013 version. So it's the third edition. So like it was released like as you can see 13 years ago. So like there's probably going to be like a more like up to date editions because unlike the cult religion that AA is, stuff like this is actually updated to inform people of better techniques and stuff that you can come across. So for instance, like the stuff I'm talking about is from like I said, the third edition is like from 2013. So you might want to go on and check it and see if there's any updated editions that have been released since then and everything. So because like I said, chances are you're gonna have stuff that's up to date and not some 100-year-old cult religion that's pretty much states like, hey, look, this is the only thing you need, and disregard to everything else. So going into the definition of terms with the cognitive behavior therapy (CBT), it's an approach that addresses excessive emotions, thoughts, and unhelpful behaviors by using goal-oriented specific systems. Many of Smart's tools are based on CBT. REBT is one version of CBT. So now, getting into the REBT, the Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, developed in the 1950s by Dr. Albert Ellis, it is based on the principle that most of our problems originate with how we interpret events in the world rather than the actual effects of those events on our lives. So pretty much getting into the concept of how we interpret things. So for instance, a lot of the substance abuse, oh, someone pissed me off, so I get so pissed off that I may not be able to regulate emotions, so I just go off and start drinking. Like, oh man, that motherfucker just pissed me off, and I just drinking yourself stupid and not necessarily solving the problem, and not in a sense getting into the depths oh hey look attacking an irrational thought of so and so said that, so now I get so pissed off now I have to drink myself stupid and everything, instead of taking a step back wait a sec, he just called me stupid. Is that necessarily true? Well, no. Is that does so and so's opinion necessarily hold weight on how I go about my day? Well, no. So you gotta have get into the nitty gritty details of of stuff like that. So instead of going off the deep end and drinking yourself stupid, which doesn't necessarily solve stuff, kind of in essence get into the heart of attacking the irrationalities of the stuff and that. So those are the things I was going to be getting into with the CBT and the REBT and everything. So they have other definitions. So they do have the four in the definition of the terms they do have the 4 point program, building, maintaining motivation, coping with the urges, managing thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So that's what I was just talking about, managing your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Instead of going out and acting irrationally and getting yourself drunk, which doesn't solve the problem. Start instance attacking those irrationalities and see maybe there's a better outlet. So for instance something I've gone on about in previous videos is journaling. Instead of going and get yourself drunk and then not solving anything, and then having to deal with the negative consequences the next day. Maybe you're hungover and you're sluggish and you're tired and then you have to deal not only all the physical ailments but the mental ailments as well. Use journaling, as I've mentioned before, to attack those irrational thoughts. You forego all the negative consequences of having to deal with the hangover and drinking and everything. Next day, you actually get in a much better position. And so, again, of course, with journaling, I'm always going to reiterate getting professional help and everything. So that's the third point. The fourth is living a balanced life. So instead of working 70, 80 hours a week and everything, and getting all burnt out and everything, maybe you cut back to maybe 45, maybe 50. So that gives you more time on the outside to take care of other stuff. Okay, maybe you need to run errands and take care of run laundry. Maybe you need to get your car fixed. You have to do your some cleaning at your place, and like maybe get some cooking and clean food prep done for the week, or going to the gym and doing stuff outside of work, so that way you can like be better in work. That's the kind of deal. So now the next one on them, they have like an ABC, like an acronym. And it's like an acronym for the first three components of like of a rational mode of behavioral therapy tool used to help change thinking, attitude, and beliefs about events and emotions, and contains these components. So A is the activating event. So, oh hey, so and so said I was stupid and everything. There's the activating event. Belief, irrational about the event. Oh well, so and so says I'm stupid, so that must be true and everything. Consequences of irrational behavior. Oh, you follow through with getting drunk and everything. So then, like stuff I was just going through and everything, like disputing the irrational belief and replacing it with a new one. Oh, hey, so like so and so called me stupid. That's not true. I'm actually relatively smart and everything. So then you start disputing it and like, hey, look, maybe they're just pissed off and like we had a little spat and because of a disagreement on how we do something at work. So you're disputing that, and then you're putting into like an effective new belief. So like the A, B, C, D, and E, and then of course you get like acting out, like acting on an impulse or craving without first thinking about it. It's like instinctively instinctively grabbing that like a liquor bottle or whatever, and going to the liquor store and instinctively going there. That's kind of like acting out and like stuff like you again getting back up to the ABCs, attacking and everything, and using that method. So the activating events, so like ABC, also known as a trigger, any action, thought, sight, smell, emotion, or other stimuli that we associate with their addictive behavior. So maybe you have like this, you get a whiff of like that smell from your typical bar, like, oh yeah, and it triggers like a memory, like, hey yeah, I used to go there to like drink and everything. So that's like a example of like a stimulus. So underneath that is the ADASHN Incorporated, so like Alcohol and Drug Abuse Self-Help Network Incorporated. It is the registered legal name of Smart Recovery. So like it does business as Smart Recovery. And then addictive behavior, any activity, substance, or object or behavior that has become the major focus of a person's life to the exclusion of other activities, or that has begun to harm the individual or others physically, mentally, or emotionally. So drinking is pretty much like a prime example. You're like you're doing that exclusively to the point where like you're probably going to like strain relationships, kind of bounce from job to job, and and then destroy your physical health and mental health and everything. So that like good examples of like addictive behavior. Cost and benefit analysis, CBA. So like you get into like a table that they have back here, all like tables that are here, like the pie chart for like life balance, like that you can use to like kind of write down the pros and cons of like everything, and then you end up doing like the CBA, the cost and benefit analysis. You realize, oh hey, look, getting drunk isn't actually relatively worth it. So like we went over CBT, coping. So like it refers to ability to deal with stress and urges to use. So like you find new coping mechanisms. So instead of like when you're getting stressed and all pissed off and everything, instead of going out and getting drunk, the example I always use is going to the gym. So you're flipping like a negative habit with replacing a negative habit with a positive one, and so now you can have a good outlet and not only like kind of cope with it, so, something in a meaningful way. You're also benefiting yourself by setting yourself up for future success, and like by taking care of your physical health and everything. So like they have like a one like a DIBS, like a DIB, dispute and irrational beliefs. So like it's a technique to look at the underlying beliefs or assumptions we hold about something. So that gets into the point of hitting that pause button, like on video games, taking a step back and like, hey, look, let's see how like wait a second, let's start like looking into this irrational thought or whatever. So then they have like a thing known as DISARM, which is destructive images, self-talk awareness, and refusal method. So it's a reminder to consider the accuracy and helpfulness of our thoughts and to refuse to let them guide our behavior if they are inaccurate or unhelpful. So that kind of talks about, like I've mentioned, kind of like taking that step back and like, hey, look, is this stuff actually true and everything? So these are all the terms and stuff and everything that's in this book. So like we went over REBT. So then it gets into like a stages of change. So like it's a model explaining change as a process first developed by, I'm going to butcher these names, so Prochaska and De Clemente in the 1970s. So like stages of changes. So like maybe like for instance, like with the alcohol or substance abuse, the first maybe like 3 to 6 months you're just coming off and you're starting to get a clearer head. You're starting to get things in order, and then like maybe this that's from like up to month 6, then maybe up to like the end of the first year. Now you're starting to get things in order. Like okay, you got like a steady job. Now you're maybe starting to go in the gym on a regular basis. You're starting to eat more healthy food. You're starting to socialize with better people, and like then from years like maybe 1 to 5, you actually get everything solidified, and then 5 years, like 5 and on, for example, you actually improve upon like all that solid foundation that you made. It's like building a house. You build that foundation first within like the first couple of years of setting yourself up with like better people. You surround yourself with better people, like a steady job, to be able to financially support yourself. You go to the gym to take care of not only your physical health but your mental health. You get the professional help in tandem with the mental health, and then like you build yourself up, and like you build the foundation over the first couple of years. You build the first floor of that house after like a few years, and by year 10 you got like the second and like a house. You got the roof on. You got like everything built and everything. So now it does talk about like and the trigger. So like us, and of course I went over that, like kind of like a stimuli that kind of reminds us of like stuff like that, of what we used to do when you used to drink or use or whatever. Urge is kind of like oh man, I could really go for like a drink right now. And so using is the kind of like a term like, hey, look, I'm still using this or whatever. And the last one is the vital absorbent creative interest, the VACI. So this one is a productive and fulfilling endeavor to pursue that is meaningful and that replaces time previously spent on your addictive behavior. Prime example I always use is the gym. Instead of going to the bar for like 3 hours and getting completely like blackout drunk, you go to the gym for like a couple hours, and you set yourself up in like a much better like a positive behavior instead of a negative behavior. So this week was getting kind of like a long-winded rant of not only like the CBT and REBT that I like I mentioned last week that I wanted to get into, but all the other terminologies that you find in this book. And so like I said, I'm going to reiterate, this handbook I have is like from 2013. Is the 3rd edition, so there's probably like an updated edition that's out there now. So like I'd love to see someone jump in the comments and be like, hey, yeah, look, they actually got updated versions of this, and so that way other people can go out and check that stuff as well.